It was a pleasure to see you, Sally. Sally Field has long been regarded as a legend in Hollywood, a gifted actress with an impressive career. But underneath the glittering red carpet grins and great honors, her life has been filled with unfathomable tragedy. She had a history of intense love, 2 failed marriages, a domineering and stifling relationship with Burt Reynolds, and a near-fatal aircraft accident before leaving to rescue herself. That's not all, however. The public's perception of Sally Field has not always been accurate. What has she been concealing all these years behind her tough exterior? What horrors have been hidden under the glitzy exterior of Hollywood? For decades, these secrets have been kept concealed, but now we will reveal the truth. On November 6, 1946, Sally Field was born in Pasadena, California. She was the daughter of former military soldier Richard Dryden Field and actress Margaret Field. Her parents' marriage, nevertheless, did not last. Sally's mother remarried famous stuntman Jock Mahoney while she was still a youngster. Sally's early years took a dismal and gloomy turn after that. Although her family seemed to be regular on the outside, things were very different behind closed doors. Sally was abused by her stepfather between the ages of 5 and 14. Even worse, her mother did nothing to shield her despite knowing about it. Sally felt alone, confused, and unable to trust anybody as a result of that silence. The tragedy was underway. Field found out she was pregnant when she was just 17. A family friend assisted her in finding a solution when she was in a dire circumstance with little option and no family support. For a medical procedure, he was the one who took her, her mother, and his wife to Tijuana, Mexico. However, the subsequent events were more worse than she could have ever envisioned. Field had no pain medication before being brought into the surgery room. She experienced the intense terror and the bodily agony. However, the worst was still to come. The technician had crossed a queue with me, and I knew it. I was at a loss for what to do. Field remembered, "I just tried to push him away." She got no assistance or attention after it was all done. The medical personnel only yelled, "Go! Now go out!" as if the structure were ablaze. Field has never been able to forget the horrible incident. A significant turning point in Sally Field's career was reached a few months later when she was cast in the main role of the television sitcom Gidget. On the tiny screen, she swiftly transformed from a young girl who had just experienced an emotional and psychological blow to America's ideal girl. Behind her glowing TV grin, however, she was aware that hundreds more women in her age had silently endured similar experiences. Field then said that she was surprised to learn that so many young women still experienced the same difficulties she faced. She underlined that this is a current reality impacting countless lives and not only a tale from the past. This was more than simply a personal experience for Sally Field. It served as a warning regarding women's safety and autonomy. She thus had a strong need for approval as a child and was always looking for affection and acceptance from others, particularly in romantic relationships. Her insecurities caused her to make decisions she would later come to regret since she never felt worthy or good enough. The scars from the past never really go away. They only exist in quiet, influencing all of her life's choices. And Sally Field's dread of being abandoned again drove her into her first marriage, not love, but those same scars. Sally Field was barely 22 years old and on the cusp of her career in 1968. However, a life-altering personal decision, rather than a significant role, caused her life to abruptly take an unanticipated turn. "Marry me or I'll marry someone else," was the ultimatum given by her longtime lover, Stephen Craig. She had no time to reflect or consider her alternatives. Sally was huddled, terrified, and not really prepared. Not because she loved him, but because she was afraid of losing the one person she believed she had. She consented. But then something unexpected happened. The actress Ron Troop, who almost took Sally's place in The Flying Nun, was the someone else Stephen was referring to. In a few of months, Ron may have become Stephen's wife, rather than only a fallback if Sally had turned down his proposal. Sally was thrown into a whole new stage of her life, becoming a wife and then a mother, while still not knowing what she really wanted since the marriage was hurried. She gave birth to her first son, Peter Craig, 1969, 2 years after the wedding, and then Eli Craig, 1972. Sally felt stuck in her own life, however, even if she had a family. She didn't discover a true connection in her marriage, and she didn't feel loved the way she yearned for. Sally felt as like she was drowning in the demands of parenthood, the need to continue her work, and a marriage that offered no escape. Sally Field formally left a marriage she had never really chosen in the first place in 1975, after 7 years of attempting to get a divorce. However, freedom did not equate to ease. She went from being a person who was governed by love to a single mother who was juggling her profession and parenting her kids. However, this was only the start. She had not been able to fully shake the specters of her past, even after leaving. Burt Reynolds and Sally Field began one of the most important and heartbreaking partnerships of Sally Field's life in 1977. It wasn't the romantic fairy tale that the people had envisioned. They seemed to be the ideal pair in Hollywood. Behind the scenes, however, their relationship was one of dominance, strife, and, in the end, regrets that neither of them could ever get rid of. On the set of Smokey and the Bandit, Burt Reynolds got to know Sally. In actuality, however, he had been observing her for a while. Sally wasn't chosen for the major part by the producers because they didn't believe she was glitzy enough to co-star with Burt, a handsome man who was renowned for his tough machismo. Burt didn't care, however. He was determined to get Sally the part because he thought she had a unique quality. He informed the production crew, "You don't get it. What makes a person appealing is their talent. She also has it." They fell in love right away when they first met on stage. In a matter of days, they felt as if they had known one another for ages due to their explosive chemistry. The appeal was more than simply physical. Both were unable to break free from the inexplicable bond. However, Sally was unaware at the time that this connection would quickly turn into a golden prison in which she would gradually lose herself. Burt Reynolds needs to be in charge. He wanted Sally to be his property in all facets of life, not just as his lover. He didn't want her to pursue a job of her own, grow up on her own, and wanted her at his side always. This was made abundantly evident during the 1977 Emmys. Sally Field's exceptional performance in Sybil earned her a nomination. Her name was revealed after she won, but she never approached the stage. She didn't even exist. Why? Burt was opposed to her leaving. Burt attempted to manipulate her more than once. He requested that she get dressed, the manner in which she talked, moved, and even saw herself. Sally lost her identity when she fell in love with Burt. She eventually started dating Burt Reynolds instead of the gifted Hollywood actress Sally Field. Ironically, however, Burt was the one who pushed her to accept the part in Norma Ray, the movie that brought her her first Oscar. Why, therefore, did Sally continue to be in this kind of relationship? Her history held the solution. Sally had been raised to want acceptance, particularly from males. Burt could have been controlling, but she was used to that dynamic. It seemed as if she might mend her own scars by changing Burt and having him love her in a manner that felt whole. But things are seldom that easy in real life. It was not only Burt's craving for control. He asked Sally to marry him many times, but she always turned him down, not because she didn't love him, but rather because she didn't think he was sincere about wanting it. Burt wanted a picture-perfect lady to be at his side, but he wasn't prepared to commit to marriage. Though he dreaded the responsibilities of parenting, he yearned to have children. Their relationship gradually came to a standstill as a result of that anxiety. But treachery was what really broke everything. Sally Reynolds was not an exception to Burt Reynolds's history of adultery. Despite her best efforts, her grandma was unable to dismiss the rumors. She got a letter from her grandma one day. Newspaper cuttings revealing Burt's affairs were found within. Sally was unable to ignore the reality any longer. More than anything, she felt silly for not recognizing it sooner and misled and fooled. Sally Field made the decision to depart in 1982 after 5 years of dating. It wasn't a quiet split. It was a turbulent and excruciating loss from which Burt would never fully recover. Burt Reynolds freely acknowledged that Sally Field was the love of his life, despite having dated several other women. "I wish I could turn back time," he said in his book. Sally, however, never turned around. He waited for her to call for years, but she never did. Burt Reynolds died in 2018 at the age of 82. Among the first to offer homage was Sally Field. She referred to him as Buddy, his nickname from childhood. Life has moments that never go away. I shall always carry the memories of the years I spent with Burt. She acknowledged, however, that she was pleased that he would never read her memoir, not because she detested him, but rather because she didn't want to give him any more pain. One of Hollywood's most intricate love stories was that of Sally Field and Burt Reynolds. Despite having severe wounds in real life, they were the ideal on-screen pair. They were terribly injured by one another, yet they also loved one another very much. While Sally saw their connection as a significant but brief period in her life, Burt lived his whole life with remorse. It was a Hollywood-style love tale, full of regret, heartache, passion, and things that could never be undone. Sally made the decision to try again in 1984 because she wanted to think that she still had a chance to discover a full love after years of upheaval. This time, the guy she picked wasn't a Hollywood celebrity or someone like Burt Reynolds who couldn't control his ego. She believed that the calmer, less ostentatious film producer Alan Greisman might provide her with the tranquility she had never experienced. Unlike Sally's previous partnerships, this marriage was neither glitzy or well-publicized. However, she thought that joy didn't always have to be shown loudly. Samuel Greisman, Sally and Alan's son, was born in 1987, 3 years after they were married. She felt like she had a true family for the first time in years. She was free of media storms and the pressure to live up to others' expectations. Sally gradually realized that love couldn't be based just on the desire to move on from the past just when she believed she had at last found stability. Although Alan Greisman was a kind man, Sally didn't need him. She knew that she wasn't really pleased and that their relationship lacked a strong bond. All she was doing was attempting to persuade herself that this was the life she should lead. The gap between them widened with time. After over 10 years of marriage, Sally decided to dissolve the union in 1993. There was merely a lady who had matured enough to realize that she didn't need a marriage to feel complete. No scandal, no loud disputes. This was a lesson, not a failure. Sally's marriage to Alan Greisman was the moment she finally walked on her own, no longer needing someone to fill the void within her. If her first marriage had been a hastily made choice out of fear, and her love for Burt Reynolds had been a passionate but draining affair. After 2 weddings, many falls, and farewells, Sally Field eventually realized the most crucial of all. She didn't need to belong to anybody. She had previously thought that her happiness relied on the guy at her side. Despite her tragic relationship with Burt Reynolds and her 2 unsuccessful marriages, Sally Field never gave up on finding love. But in the midst of short-lived romances, gossip, and unresolved romantic tales, she gradually realized that no one but herself could satisfy the emptiness inside of her. Few people are aware that Sally was romantically involved with Pete Duell, the actor from Alias Smith and Jones, in the late 1960s. They first crossed paths when they were both young and not quite at the pinnacle of their careers. However, the partnership ended. Nobody could have foreseen that Pete would experience a deep despair and commit himself at the age of 31, just a few years after their divorce. Around the same time, there were rumors that Sally and the Monkees' lead singer, Davy Jones, were dating. Although their private times together generated conjecture, none of them ever provided concrete proof. Out of all the guys who had been in Sally's life, Davy Jones was still just a question mark. After splitting from Burt Reynolds in the early 1980s, Sally fell in love again with Oscar-winning actor Kevin Kline. It didn't endure, however, much like her past relationships. While Sally persisted in her quest for self-awareness, Kevin Kline went on to wed actress Phoebe Cates. The renowned Tonight Show presenter Johnny Carson was one of Sally's most enigmatic partners. Some stories claim that Carson and Sally were formerly engaged, and that he had enormous influence in the entertainment world. However, it never really came to an end, much like a lot of her loves. "I waited my whole life for someone to see my value," as Sally Field once said. But in the end, I understood that I was the only one capable of doing it. When she believed she had weathered enough storms, destiny put her to the test once more. Literally. When Sally Field boarded a private jet in 1988, she had no idea that she would be in danger of dying a few minutes later. The airliner abruptly lost power after takeoff, lost control, and skidded down the runway, colliding with many parked planes. Witnesses thought that nobody could have made it out alive. However, Sally did. She left without being hurt. Is it a miracle or just a harsh lesson from destiny? The psychological gloom had been plaguing her for a long time, if the aircraft disaster was the moment she had to face death literally. Nothing, however, could shatter Sally Field. She had endured years of struggling with depression, a near-death incident on the runway, and tumultuous storms in love. She always managed to get back up stronger than before, even if she had previously lost her path. In addition to being a Hollywood legend, Sally Field was a woman who had endured hardships, loved, lived, and, above all, surmounted everything. Despite winning 2 coveted Oscars and becoming a Hollywood celebrity, Sally Field has never regarded her work as her greatest accomplishment. Her 3 boys are the most significant legacy she will leave behind, and motherhood is the most significant role she has ever performed in her life. She has been confident of one thing throughout her regrettable relationships and failed marriages. Her love for her children is the one thing that will never change. Her oldest son, Peter Craig, was born in 1969, when Sally was still having difficulty making a name for herself in Hollywood. Despite being the son of a well-known celebrity, Peter never used his mother's name to further his career. As a gifted screenwriter, he opted to tell tales from behind the camera rather than in front of it. Peter's work is essential to watching exciting, high-stakes Hollywood action flicks. He is the author of The Town, The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, and, most famously, Top Gun: Maverick, which became one of the highest-grossing films ever made and brought back a venerable series. Sally's delight in her oldest son has never been concealed. He can create storylines that captivate people without ever being on film. Her second son, Eli Craig, followed her into show business, but took a different route. Eli bravely carved out a space for himself in horror humor instead of mainstream film. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is a film made by Eli that became a cult phenomenon and was generally recognized for its uniqueness. Fans of dark humor blended with horror, satire will surely recognize it. After that triumph, Eli continued developing his own aesthetic with Little Evil, a strange, supernatural Netflix movie that combined humorous and spooky aspects. Sally has always appreciated how her kid dares to be unique and challenges conventional narrative. Eli is the originator of new, unusual viewpoints on film, if Peter is the storyteller behind the scenes. Of Sally's 3 children, however, her youngest son, Samuel Greisman, has the most remarkable narrative. Unlike his brothers, Sam did not pursue a career in filmmaking. She was born in 1987, during her second marriage to Alan Greisman. Rather, he set out on a path that transformed Sally into an advocate as well as a mother. Sam knew he was unique from an early age. Sally didn't just accept him when he came out as homosexual. She went on to become one of Hollywood's most outspoken advocates for the LGBTQ+ community. She actively worked to guarantee that Sam and others like him had the right to live genuinely because she loved her kid more than she could have imagined. One of the most poignant moments occurred in 2012 when Sam introduced his mother, who was being honored for her commitment to equality, on stage at the Human Rights Campaign event. He said in a moving speech that his mother was the one who gave him the courage to accept who he really was. Sally's support, however, went beyond words. She stood up for her son in the most sensible manner possible, even if it meant assisting him in finding a partner. She gained notoriety in 2018 when she openly attempted to pair Sam with Olympic figure skater Adam Rippon via Twitter. Her hilarious matchmaking post went viral right away, and many were very aback by how publicly supportive she was of her motherhood. One thing was shown by the unsuccessful match. Sally wanted her kid to be happy, not merely protected. Later, Sam Griesman also sought a career in the arts. But unlike his elder brother, he did not work on Hollywood blockbusters. Rather, he concentrated on documentaries and short films, many of which examined issues related to the LGBTQ+ population and the quest for acceptance. The short film After School, which explores the struggles LGBTQ+ teens endure, is among his most well-known creations. With his mother's constant support, Sam has made a significant influence in his area, even if his work may not be at the top of the Hollywood charts. Even though each of Sally Field's boys has forged their own distinct career, they all have one thing in common. They inherited her tenacity, willpower, and ferocious independence. Peter tells stories like a pro. Eli is a filmmaker who defies all expectations. Additionally, Sam is a strong advocate for the principles he holds dear. Sally Field never had to doubt her three boys' affection for her, even if she did lose herself in love and go to them for approval. She knows one thing for sure. She did one thing completely right, becoming a mother, after all the chaos, heartache, and even moments of confronting death. The Sally Field of today is no longer a woman looking to others for approval, after all the ups and downs, tragic romances, unhappy marriages, and years of struggling to identify herself. She has discovered her own value in the freedom to follow her own path, not in accolades or connections. She made headlines in 2017 and even rocked Broadway with her performance in The Glass Menagerie, for which she was nominated for a coveted Tony Award. She revealed the most agonizing aspects of her life, from childhood trauma to the period when she lost herself in love, in her memoir, In Pieces, which was released a year later. It was written as a statement that Sally Field had at last found her voice again, not to elicit compassion. She received the Screen Actors Guild, SAG, Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023, which was well-earned for a lady who had persevered through all the challenges to establish herself as a legend in the field. However, Sally has never placed much importance on the splendors of the screen. Her value has always been determined by the way she chooses to live her life, not by her responsibilities. She hasn't stopped either. Sally Field gained notoriety in 2024 when she openly supported Vice President Kamala Harris in the presidential contest. She actively campaigned, calling on people to support Harris and protect women's rights, rather than only expressing her support in the media. People who had only known Sally Field as an actor would have found this to be an unexpected decision. To those who knew her well, however, it was quite the opposite. When the stakes were high, she has never been one to remain mute. Today's Sally Field is neither an actress terrified of the harsh entertainment business, nor a woman ruled by love. She is a strong, self-reliant lady who doesn't hesitate to speak out for what she believes in. One of Sally's responses to the question of what she regrets in life was, "I don't care what people think of me anymore. I spent too much time worrying about that. Now, I just live the life I want." She has finally discovered who she is after decades of seeking. Sally Field has never let Hollywood define her, despite the fact that it may honor her as a legend. She is more than simply a two-award-winning actress. She is a woman who has experienced intense love, loss, and the struggle to regain her identity. She no longer bears the weight of two unfulfilled marriages, a stifling affair with Burt Reynolds, and years of drowning in other people's expectations. Because today's Sally Field doesn't look to others for approval. I don't care what people think of me anymore. I spent too much time worrying about that. Now I just live the life I want, she once said, and maybe that's the most significant role she's ever played, one that doesn't require a director or a script and doesn't require approval from anyone other than herself. I'll see you in the next video.